Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless coming to you after Alpha 1 is completed. What I want to do today is just share with you some of the feedback, share with you some of the stats that came in from Alpha 1. Also want to talk to you a little bit about Alpha 2 as well, because we are well underway in terms of improvements, in terms of some bug fixing, and then also in terms of like getting ourselves ready to welcome you back. So Alpha 1, we actually sent out invites to about 5,500 players. And of those, the vast majority at least logged into the game. I'm going to go through some stats in a minute, but we had something like a 96% email open rate for Alpha 1. And then of the people that opened the email, about 95% of those people decided to try the game, which, by the way, is totally insane. I've worked in sales, and you know, if you get like a 1 in 3 response rate to something you're doing, it's pretty obscene. Obviously this is a little bit different, but still, like, the numbers like blew me away, honestly, in terms of the people that came in and tried the game. And we'll go through some of the stats of like people who actually like engaged properly with the game in a second. Alpha 2 though is going to start on the 13th of August. Today, not long after this video goes out, we'll be sending an email to everybody in the alpha. Okay, that's basically anybody who has signed up at fateless.gg to this point. We're inviting into Alpha 2. Okay, so if you're like watching this and thinking, damn, why didn't they send me an email? I can tell you now, we did. If you signed up, it's probably in a promotions folder or a spam folder. The amount of people that messaged me after Alpha 1 saying I didn't receive anything, they did. They just couldn't find the email. You want to go into your email box and just search for GODFORGE or search for the word alpha, and you'll find the information there. So what we're doing, and it's really important you do this because we have to whitelist people for mobile devices. Okay, so the email that comes out today, it will tell you some information about Alpha 2, and it will also say, if you plan at all in any time in Alpha 2 to play on a mobile device, that's an iPhone, needs to be an iPhone 15 Pro or better or higher, or an Android device which has got at least 6 gig of memory. If you're planning to play on either of those types of devices, you have to complete the form. This was probably our biggest pain point for Alpha 1, is that we weren't clear enough with the language, and loads of people that thought they could just play on phone, they couldn't play unless we whitelist their emails. Okay, so that's something that's really important. Make sure you action that today if you want to play on a mobile device. And share that with anybody that you know is playing. Please don't check your emails. Please go and respond to those emails. Otherwise, it becomes a real frustration for people that think they should be able to get on, but they're not able to get on. Okay, then let's go into some of the info we have gained from this alpha. So I've done myself a little Miro board here. Just like reconsider, what were we looking to gain from the alpha? We were looking to understand, did we find the fun? Okay, are people that are playing this game, GODFORGE, is it engaging? Are they enjoying that core gameplay loop of building heroes, building teams, overcoming challenges in GODFORGE? We wanted to test our cameras. How do they feel? Where do people land in terms of what they're enjoying, what they're not? And get a ton of feedback on cameras. We've got a lot of work to do on cameras, but we've got a good foundation there. We wanted to test our systems to make sure they're all working. We got some bugs with stuff like that. We wanted to test the power curve of heroes, of gear, of imprints, of weapons. Like, all of those things are like building blocks of power. And then we also wanted to test our curve of enemies that you're facing. So, you know, we want to understand if we got that in a good spot. And then another element is just like, let's squash a load of bugs. The more eyes that are on the game, the easier it is to collect a load of info on bugs. We had something like 4,000 bug reports. Now, a lot of them are duplications. Yeah, people are seeing the same purple Tristane coming at them, and everyone's reporting that one because it's super obvious to see. But then we also had some ones which we hadn't noticed before ourselves. Some of the intricacies where it's like, hold on a minute, is this passive actually doing what it's meant to be doing? And then we go in and deep dive it, and we find ways to improve the game. So we'll find out from the feedback, did we tick the boxes on a lot of these things? And then I'm going to tell you what the sort of main focuses are for Alpha 2. And then obviously Alpha 3 after that. So let's go through some of the stats. Firstly, Corey and Chris from the team pulled together a load of the info that you guys have sent back, right? So whether it's our data or whether it's data looking at your surveys and stuff, this is what we're going to go through here. And then I personally am in the Discords a lot, and I get some sort of, I guess, general feeling of how people are enjoying the game as well. So this is from Corey. We had 198 legendary players who conquered stage 150. Okay, so that's our end game challenge, was to try and beat stage 150. So 198 out of just over 5,000 players actually beat the game. 15 players beat it in the last day. And then we actually had, on the second to last day, 42 players beat it. So as we were coming towards the end, people like really pushed. Some players attempted stage 150 over 8 times in a day. We had people really from around the globe, which is cool. We had 4,421 players log in for over 3 days. Okay, so we class that as someone who's basically been active for the time. And of that, we've had 45,776 hours played. Now, obviously, this is a type of game where sometimes you're doing auto battles and stuff, but it basically averages to over 10 hours per day per active player, which is pretty mad. This could be incorrect. I'm going to call it out. So our leaderboards were a little bit wonky, but as of the data we've got, the first person to complete the alpha wave 1 was the Black Bangout on the 25th of July at 5:24 UTC. Now we started, I believe, on the 23rd. Let me just check that actually. Started on the Wednesday. On the 23rd, yeah, 23rd at 3 p.m. UTC. So 2 days, 2 hours, 24 minutes. They completed level 150. It's pretty mad. In terms of some metas then, so for stage 150, there was 978 combats. Heimdall was the #1 most popular hero. He was relatively broken in a number of ways. He was broken in terms of how good he was, and he also was a real punisher of the game. He basically broke the game. So that's one of the things we want to fix for Alpha 2. Shamash was second place with his revive and with his ally attack. 61% of players using him. Zeus was the third of the big three. Nearly 50% of players using him in that 150 challenge. And then it's like that winning combo was those three. Pro tip here, 67% of players who reached level 140 eventually beat 150. So, and the biggest challenge where people dropped out was actually 142, which was pretty bugged. We had ISIS just being unkillable. So a lot of people, 22% of players found that bug was just too much. We've got a shout out to some of our level 150 players here. So in the last 24 hours, oh man, we've got some tough names. Carrie Nixie, Stay Woke, Chipicus, MXPJE, and Yar Peter all beating it in the last 24 hours. We've got some grinders here that were trying multiple attempts. So Mighty Mog, Erroneous, Fosty, Hannibal with multiple attempts per day. We had people from all over the world. And then some of the popular team comps. We had Aphrodite with Beowulf, Heimdall, Shamash, and Zeus. So the core three throwing in Aphrodite and Beowulf. We've also had this kind of like Shamash Zeus combo with 62% of the people using that. The tank combo of Heimdall, Shamash, and then Aphrodite often coming in as like one of the filler heroes. Some examples of some winning teams then. Aphrodite, Zeus, Shamash, Anubis, and Herc. Pretty cool. Quetzalcoatl, Heimdall, Drak, Zeus, and Odin. This was Stay Woke's. MX's here was Shamash, Zeus, Heimdall, core 3, but then YDG, Ydragok, which is the dragon, and Anubis. And then Yar Peter came in with a more balanced team, which was Aphrodite, Herc, YDG, Isis as a healer, reviver, and Odin. So cool to see a lot of different teams coming in the mix. This is just some words from Corey here, really. So what he loves about the data is it shows the dedication and skill of this group. Stage 150 was designed to be an ultimate test. It will be harder in Alpha 2. 150 was not hard enough in terms of the actual level. Like getting to 150 was very hard. Fafnir himself was not hard enough. So we saw 183 players rise to meet the challenge. 57 concrete on the last day. Whether you're using the popular combo or experimenting with your own strats, every attempt makes you part of this amazing journey. The fact that players are trying 8 times in a day shows your passion for GODFORGE. And to everyone still working towards 150, the data shows that if you get past 140, there's a good chance you're going to get to 150. Keep pushing, keep experimenting, keep forging your legend. I think from Corey's point of view, you know, he's joined the company quite recently, and I think he's kind of blown away by the dedication of this community and the engagement we get, and how excited people are by this game. So very, very cool. I pulled together a couple of extra notes here. So we had a lot of content creators covering GODFORGE, which is really cool. You can literally go back and check out some of their videos. If you go into the Discord, there is a section. Let me show you quick. A couple of things actually to call out. In the Discord, if you come up to announcements, there is a supporting guide. It's actually quite far up now, so maybe we need to redo this, but there's a support here in terms of like, how do I unlock all channels in the Discord? Okay, and you really need to be in the Discord if you're going to be doing the alpha to feedback your findings. But once you've unlocked all the channels, there's a section for alpha. Okay, so which is here, alpha testing zone. There's an alpha chat. It's super busy, really, really busy with people theory crafting, sharing their stuff. There's an area to flex your progress. There's an area to give us feedback and bug reporting. And then I also drop alpha announcements. Me and Dan generally are dropping the announcements in here as well, which is giving some tips and tricks, by the way. So definitely worth being in that. There's also this section for community videos. So community videos, this is where a lot of the content creators are posting their videos, talking about GODFORGE, talking about their experiences. There's community live streams as well, which is showing when people are going live to play it. And then there's community resources, which are the group that are basically building the different web pages or tools to help people play it and navigate all the realms of GODFORGE. So I definitely recommend you coming and checking that out. Here's a couple of examples of people that were in the mix. So Ragewood, I believe, was the first content creator to beat GODFORGE. And he might have also been a challenge for this time. I'm not sure, but I know that he did it insanely fast. Raven Pyros was actually the person who played the most hours during the alpha. So he's actually one of the people that has a website here. And then I just wanted to call it out because it's a very cool achievement. Adventures of Adam, he beat GODFORGE with just rares. So he beat level 150 and 151 with just a rare team all the way, which is very cool. Some of our most used heroes is Isolde, Ramsey, Skadi. So they're 3 rares. Heimdall, Aphrodite, Shamash, Zeus, Dagonet, one of the other rares, Lady Jacques, and Guan Yu. As I say, loads of CCs were streaming it. Let's talk about the survey that came back then. Actually, before we do, just quickly, I thought this was interesting. So, top 10 most popular heroes for stage 150. Lots more legendaries in the mix. Pangu's in there, Hurt, Quetzalcoatl, Isis. Beowulf, actually, the only non-legendary that was a high use case for 150. And then in terms of where people struggled with 140 up, you can see like the number of people that attempted it versus people that completed it. And there's only really 142 that had like a big drop-off rate. 148, 149, 150 were all tough as well. So I thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, onto the survey then. So we sent out a survey on day 3 of Alpha 1, asking a bunch of questions. We then asked some similar questions and some other stuff on at the end of the alpha. Okay, so we had over 2,000 responses, which is cool. Dan did say if we get more than 50% response rate, which would mean over 2,500, that we would do a juicy leak. Okay, so if you go and check your inbox or you've not yet completed your survey, there might be 500 of you that push us into juicy leak territory, which would be exciting. Right, let's go through some of the most interesting questions here. So what we've seen is versus day 3 survey. Firstly, an insane amount of people have already got a high level of satisfaction with playing the game. So, and I'm of this opinion, like I'd love for this to say 100%, right? Very satisfied. It's an alpha. It's extremely unlikely to say that. Plus, it's impossible to please everyone. Even people that were excited for the game, they might not have enjoyed the game. Okay, that's where we're at. But over 80% had a really high satisfaction level. And what was interesting is, versus the day 3 survey, our very satisfied went up. So as people played the game more, understood the game more, they pushed into like more satisfied, which is very cool to see. Exactly what we're looking for, honestly. And you can see it just in this kind of like pie graph here. This is a very satisfied camp, satisfied, neutral, and then lower. So that's good. Like, that helps us understand, did we find the fun, right? This was an interesting one as well. Hold on a minute, no, up here first. I'm being like our cameras right now. I'm all over the place. Friend recommendation. So over 82% of people are likely or very likely to recommend GODFORGE to their friends. And again, this went up from the day 3 survey. And in business, this is called a net promoter score. And anything over 68 is extremely high. Okay, so again, we're dealing with our kind of like core group here that we would expect to vote more highly, but still very encouraging to see. You can see it here, 45% were very likely to recommend GODFORGE onwards. We had questions here around, are you likely to return for Alpha Wave 2? 95.6% are looking forward to returning to Wave 2. That's amazing from people that did the survey. That's amazing. That's really what we want. We asked questions about different parts of the game. So how do you feel about hero art? 4.2 out of 5. So over 80% were satisfied. Boss art, similar as well. Combat animations, some work to do, but actually, as people played it more, their view of it improved. So I think we're on the right track here, 3.8. The biggest area of improvement is user interface. Things like understanding what faction people are in was a big one. Yeah, I guess that was one of the larger ones. And then just some stuff around, some stuff we can fix initially and some stuff we can't really, like, you know, sorting by factions, having a flag, understanding what different skills do, things like having fatter bars to be able to use and understand the bars better. There's a whole bunch of stuff, right? Now, we've not been able to fix it all. Next week's video, I'm actually going to go through like a full patch notes of what we have fixed for Alpha 2, and that's important. But definitely we can see this is one of our areas to improve. Some gameplay systems. So did we find the fun? 75% of people were satisfied, and that improved a lot as the week went on. So the more people kind of like got their heads around the game, the more they found it really fun. Lots of people had different build varieties. The combat feel people enjoyed and it improved. The depth of combat improved as well. Hero progression improved as well, and the daily gameplay loop. So the main things really that we wanted to test are in a good spot. Yeah, so the last one really from this survey that I wanted to touch on, is cameras. Now, we've got a lot of feedback on cameras, and actually our team are working hard on what we want to do. There's going to be some tweaks for Alpha 2, but it's not going to be substantial change. But we have taken on board some of the different feedback areas. As I say, I'll go through this in a change log. In terms of people using the different cameras, a lot of people used top as their primary or 3/4 as their primary. But then there was a decent amount of people that switched between them as well. So I think there's elements which are right and there's elements which are not. But as I say, this is probably one of this and UI really, two of the areas where we really want to focus time on as we go towards beta, because they're bigger things to fix. We will fix some of them before Alpha 3, but you know, these are more like beta level fixes. So yeah, a few things that we're working on then. Some of the UI stuff as we can. We're trying to make sure that imprints work for the next wave. So any imprint that's on here, we're expecting it to work. Or definitely we're trying hard to make sure that happens, because a lot of them were not working. We're doing a few tweaks to heroes. We're doing some big changes to Fafnir so that Fafnir becomes a challenge. And some of the sort of slowdown bugs, which were frustrating for people, like the memory leak stuff, we're looking to fix. And yeah, and there's a whole bunch of other like smaller things which will just add up to a lot more for you as well. So lots to do for Alpha 2. It's only 8 days away or something, 7 or 8 days away. So not a huge amount of time to get these things done, which means that we do the things which we think will have the biggest impact for you guys. We've already got a long list for Alpha 3, which we just continue to work on whilst Alpha 2 is in progress. And then I'd say like about 40% of the team are currently, in terms of devs, are working on Alpha stuff. And then 60% are actually working on the game that we're going to launch with, right? So we also have to keep an eye on that and make sure we don't lose time for building out a lot of the systems that you don't see yet. So that's going to be it for this video. It's probably the last chance, really. Well, you can still sign up at fateless.gg and get involved in Alpha Wave 3, which will be the final wave of Alpha. It's also going to be the competition wave where you get a chance to win some really cool stuff. I'll tell you more about that as we get closer to Alpha 3. And yeah, just super psyched to see how pumped the community is for GODFORGE. Thank you so much for all your feedback. Please continue doing that. It really helps us out a ton. And I will see you in the next one.